Security forces in Nigeria intensified the search for more than 300 kidnapped girls. UN Human Rights Office says 18 people have been killed during protests in Myanmar. And the US approves the use of Johnson & Johnson's single-shot COVID-19 vaccine. Hello and welcome. You're watching Africa Live. We're coming to you live from Nairobi. I'm Hannah Viviers. Here are more stories making headlines. In your sport, Egypt's Al Ahly Football Club speaks about coping with increased COVID-19 precautions and regulations. We begin in Nigeria, where authorities are still searching for over 300 schoolgirls who were kidnapped in Zamfara State. They were abducted from a boarding school on Friday. Earlier on Saturday, gunmen released the 42 people, including schoolboys who had been abducted in Niger State. They had spent at least 10 days in captivity. Their release followed days of tense negotiations. Earlier today, we spoke with our correspondent in Lagos, Deji Badmus. He gave us an update on the latest efforts to rescue the schoolgirls who'd been kidnapped on Friday.
The authorities are intensifying the operation now, security operation to get the children rescued. I'm talking about the schoolgirls now. More troops have been moved into the state, more police personnel as well as military assets now have been moved in there. The search is on. What we understand is that the security agents have been able to locate the forest where these girls are being kept. The only reason why they are not storming the place is to prevent any form of casualty now. Now, besides the military operation that is going on, talks are also going on, being led by the governor of that state. That's what we understand. They are not disclosing. The authorities in that state now are not disclosing the details of these talks, but actually we understand the authorities in the state there have been able to identify and locate the leadership of the bandits who carried out the attacks, and that they're actually talking. And what we're getting is that sooner than later, they would reach some kind of agreement and that these girls would be released. So the way the government is tackling this is tackling it on two fronts. You have the military, the security operation that is going on. So what the government is hoping to do is that, well, if the talks failed, then it might have to consider the military option. But then there's this confidence. The governor has expressed confidence that he would be able to deal with this. He would be able to talk the bandits now into accepting to releasing the girls. It's something that he had done before. He's used to this. So that's why he's pretty confident that he'll be able to deal with this and that he'd be able to convince the bandits to get the girls released.
Nigeria has in recent years seen a rise in the kidnapping of students. For more analysis, earlier on we spoke with Christopher Ogbogbo, a professor of history at the University of Ibadan. He noted the sensitization campaigns were needed to better protect schools and communities.
I think that given the frequency, there has to be the sensitization first of the communities where the schools are located to the security realities, and then the sensitization of the students, the teachers, and the workers. There will be need to set up a rapid response squad located somewhere within the communities where these schools are located, such that if an adequate alarm system is set up, either the students, the authorities, the teachers, the workers can trigger off the alarm such that it will get to the rapid response squad and they will be able to respond adequately. Very unfortunately, the kidnapping of students from schools seem to tie with the philosophy of the Boko Haram terrorists in the northeastern part of the country, where they say Western education is haram and should be forbidden, it should be avoided. Now, children in the northern part of the country will be afraid to go to school. A number of parents will show significant apprehension to send their wards to school. For instance, the idea of boarding schools, a lot of people will shy away from it. And these are parts of the country that are educationally disadvantaged. So it's going to worsen the effort to promote education in these parts of the country.
In news making headlines from outside our continent's borders, we go to Myanmar, where the UN Human Rights Office says 18 people have been killed during protests against the military seizure of power. Hundreds were arrested on Sunday as demonstrators filled the streets of Yangon in the military's toughest crackdown yet. Large demonstrations have been held across the country since the army seized power and detained elected government leader Aung San Suu Kyi earlier this month. The generals alleged fraud in a November election, which saw Suu Kyi's party win in a landslide. The following report was filed by our correspondent Gao Jiayi from the scene of a protest in Yangon.
This is Gao Jiayi. I'm now still in B Road. Now behind me, the security forces push on, and they're walking near me and near the protesters. As we can see. We can see the security forces are taking the shells, and we can hear the guns, rubber bullets, or real gun. They're pushing on. And on the other side, they fire the gun to disperse the protesters. We can see many of the security forces are running to the position, the gathering point of the protesters. They're passing by my car and they come to the place. They come to the place that's the sound of the shooting. This is Gao Jiayi for CGTN in Yangon.
In the United States, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved a coronavirus vaccine from Johnson & Johnson. It's the third to win approval in that country. And as John Tourette reports, the vaccine is reported to have some important advantages.
The Johnson & Johnson vaccine offers much promise to Americans. When it's finally flowing into arms here, it will increase the number of vaccinations by around 25%. It's the only one-dose vaccine Americans are being offered, and it can be stored at normal temperatures. On Friday, the Food and Drug Administration Advisory Panel met all day to hear some of the specifics about the drug. It's 85% effective in severe cases, 72% effective in the USA, and 66% effective around the world. But it is 100% effective in keeping people alive and keeping them out of hospital. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, which are already flowing here in the United States, were tested within the borders of the country. Another difference with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is that it was tested here at home, but also in Latin America, mainly in Brazil and in South Africa. It's effective on the variants. On Sunday, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, based in Atlanta, Georgia, in the south of the country, will meet to take one more decision, and that will be who should be the priority cases who receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine once it is widely available. J&J say they have 3.9 million vaccines on trucks ready to go out on Monday. It's disappointing to some that it's not 10 million, which had been anticipated. But the vaccine news generally in America seems to be getting better and better. Only in the last week or so, the Pfizer vaccine was approved for storage at normal temperatures. Prior to that, it had been thought it needed to be stored at super cool temperatures. So now there are 3 vaccines available to Americans, and soon there will be a 4th when the AstraZeneca vaccine is approved in the coming months. And of course, there are vaccines available around the world from China and Russia too. Doctors say take whichever one you're offered first. John Terrett, CGTN, New York.
Well, let's now take a short break. When we return, we'll look at the latest efforts to alleviate hunger in northern Kenya.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
we celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Syria,
Juba, Johannesburg, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. You're watching Africa Live. In Kenya, the National Drought Management Authority has issued an alert over the deteriorating condition of both livestock and households in Mandera County. An ongoing drought since January has been impacting food security in the country's arid northeastern region. CGTN's Daniel Arap Moy spoke to the CEO of Kenya's Drought Management Authority. Here's what they discussed.
Good to have you with us, sir.
Good to have you. Thank you and welcome.
Now, what is the reason behind the latest hunger alert in Kenya?
In those pockets, for people depend on crop, there have been crop failure in some of those areas. And that's why we are having this issue. So it's an alert.
So how many people have been affected?
About 1.4 million people now are affected, need assistance in terms of food, maybe in terms of health and malnutrition issues, in terms of support on livestock activities, water and all this.
Why do these crises keep happening?
Drought shows that there's a problem somewhere and you must tackle that problem. And that problem is poverty, is that people are not resilient. People don't have the capacity to deal with the situation.
What are the best ways to help?
We need to look at issue of peace building and conflict management. We need to look at issues of livelihoods, sustainable livelihoods. We need to look at the issues of infrastructure. We need to look at the issues of human capital, health and nutrition.
How much money do you need to address the situation?
From our contingency plans and response plan, what is required to intervene in this period from January up to end of March in all the sectors. I mentioned the water, I mentioned the livestock, I mentioned peace building and conflict management, I mentioned health and nutrition, something like $200 million US.
Let's continue the bulletin with our focus on the voices of women across Africa. This time we highlight a story from Egypt about a woman with widespread experience in many fields. Anissa Asuna is a former diplomat, a member of parliament, a businesswoman, a philanthropist, and a women's rights activist. Yasser Hakim spent a day with her and shared the following with us.
At 9 a.m. every day, Anissa Hassouna heads to her office at Al Nas Hospital or People's Hospital. It's her favorite project, a 550-bed hospital to treat children with heart conditions free of charge.
This hospital is the biggest one for children in Africa and the whole Middle East. We're very happy that during last year, with the COVID-19, with all the economic difficulties, with everything that has happened all over the world, not only in Egypt, we were able to do unprecedented numbers in surgeries. We did surgeries of around 1,500 for the children that were taking off the waiting list, and we're continuing to do this.
Hassouna had earlier helped establish the Sir Magdi Yaqub Heart Foundation in Aswan City. The former MP has excelled in her business career as a top executive in the banking sector, in the Arab League Economic Unity, and in several local and international foundations. She was also named as one of the 100 most powerful Arab women by the Arabian Business and CEO Middle East magazine. Hassouna is also well known for her active role in fighting for women's rights.
All my life I was for women's rights. My late father was the Minister of Justice who has abolished the decision of taking women by police force to their husbands' houses. if they ask for divorce. This was at the time of President Gamal Abdel Nasser. I was raised in a house that believes in women's rights, in our capacities, in their qualifications and all that. So I defended that all the time. I did that in the parliament. Even here in the hospital, I always say we have to increase the number of surgeons, female surgeons and nurses, because we have really good qualified women doing all these jobs.
Hassouna, who is a grandmother now, says her family, including her husband and 2 daughters, have always been integral in supporting her, whether at work or even when she was diagnosed with cancer. Her best-selling book, Without Prior Notice, about her battle with cancer, has inspired thousands of readers in the region. Hassouna's elder daughter says she's always looked up to her mother with a sense of pride.
My mother has always been a working woman, and that's since we were little kids, so that's completely normal for us, and more so it is actually a great role model for us to see that model there. The normal model for me is that a mother is a working mother, and I think that was a very good example for my sister and myself growing up. In terms of her activities in the public space, in addition to her job, that's also something that has been going on for decades.
Selma says her mother's busy career has never affected her responsibilities at home.
That has never been an issue. She's always there for us, and she's always a great example of a professional life as well. So there was never an issue of balancing home and work.
Despite all the challenges she has faced, Hassouna continues to enthusiastically play her role as a real voice for Egyptian women and helping the poor. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
And now, onto some lighter news from Mauritius, the small but vibrant African island country on the Indian Ocean. This year, the Sino-Mauritian community celebrated the end of the 2-week-long Chinese New Year festivities with a lantern festival that boasts of having the largest gathering of Chinese lions in Africa. Our correspondent Liu Feifei brings us that story.
Every year, lantern festivals are held by Chinese communities all over the world. This year, due to COVID-19 restrictions, many of the festivals have been cancelled or subdued. But that's not the case in Mauritius. As the country is COVID safe, the Sino-Mauritian community has gathered 31 lions and even a dragon. And this is the largest known gathering on the African continent this year to celebrate Chinese culture and to say good riddance to 2020.
The Spring Festival in Mauritius, we have been celebrating it for over 100 of years. It has been brought in by our ancestors from Meishen, which we call normally Moyen. And like every festivity, the lion and dragon dance is the highlight. And everybody knows that the lion and dragon bring good luck and a sign of power and wisdom. And I would like to thank all my students, which is today about 30 of them, to having taken part of a big gathering, big celebration. Thank you.
The lion dance is always high energy and brings lots of joy to the audience. But while it's entertaining and the motions are fluid and beautiful to watch, it takes a lot of practice to master.
I was introduced to lion dance through Wing Chun because I've been doing martial arts for some time now, and I think it's a really beautiful culture. It's full of colors. It requires lots of stamina and discipline to do it, and you have to learn the routine. But at the same time, when you perform, you can do it spontaneously as well, and you can become a natural if you really love it.
Mauritius is known as a melting pot of cultures. Here, people of African, Indian, and Chinese descent coexist on their island paradise. And the lion dance, appreciated by all Mauritians, is a great symbol of the Mauritian spirit.
I've been passionate by the Chinese culture since my childhood. In fact, my besties are Chinese girls. I've been present all the time for the Lantern festivals, and I just love the lion dance. I wish I could perform it, and it's such a nice thing and such a passionate thing that it thrills the emotions in the crowd. Such a lively thing. Love it.
Chinese New Year celebrations always last for 15 days, and they're officially marked as the end when we have the Lantern Festival. And now that we've all auspiciously seen the largest gathering of Chinese lions in Africa for this year, I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. 祝大家新年快乐！刘菲菲 CGTN Port Louis, Mauritius.
Well, the film and television industry has been gearing up for the Golden Globes in America, which take place on Sunday. Among the nominees, a Chinese-born director who's become one of the most sought after in Hollywood. CGTN's Francis Kuo brings us his story.
Best Director, Motion Picture, Chloe Zhao, Nomadland.
With that announcement, Chloe Zhao made history. The first time a woman of Asian descent has been nominated in the directing category. Her film, Nomadland, also up for Best Motion Picture. It stars Frances McDormand as a woman who loses her factory job and her way during the U.S.'s Great Recession. She then embarks on a physical and personal journey through the American West, adopting the lifestyle of a modern-day nomad.
I'm very proud of this movie, this new minimalist movement or decluttering and get rid of possessions, and also the importance of being by yourself in solitude, in nature. These are things I explore a lot in my own life.
Zhao was born and raised in Beijing and later moved to the United States in high school. Her first feature film in 2015, Songs My Brothers Taught Me, premiered at both the Sundance and Cannes film festivals.
I want to see what's out there.
It tells the tale of a brother and sister from an American Indian reservation. Zhao followed up 2 years later with The Rider, the story of a rodeo star who suffers a devastating brain injury.
Sometimes dreams aren't meant to be.
In all three of these films, the actors play versions of themselves.
The idea of the white picket fence and the stuff, that's never interested me. You know, I like the American broken dreams. How about that? I'm much more, what I love about America is not necessarily the American dream, is the fact that there's so much spirit of fighting to continue to dream once the dreams are broken.
Are you lost?
But Zhao's next project delves headfirst into the world of fiction with the big-budget Marvel film Eternals. It's notable both for its star power and diversity. Eternals will feature Marvel's first gay superhero and its first deaf one. Zhao hopes the impact of her films goes beyond the individual stories she tells.
I love what I do, you know. I want to tell stories for a living. I don't want to do anything else, and I've been very fortunate that I get to do it. If this means more people that are like me that get to do it, then I think it's great.
Francis Kuo, CGTN.
It's time now for us to take a short break and return some sport action. Do stay with us.
It's just taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
AfricaLive. Find your voice.
Well, time now for the